Hey guys, SeanSolo here, and today I'm going to show you the Real1S frame made by Realacc. This is the stretch version of the Real1 frame that came out before this one, and I'm going to tell you this was the easiest build I have done so far, and I'm going to show you why. So here it is. This is the Real1S. It's made by Realacc. This is the stretched model of the Real1, which is a 220 millimeter frame. The Real1S is a 235 millimeter because of the stretch part of it is from motor to motor diagonal. And if you just take a look at this, look at how beautiful this is. Look, it's not a mess. You don't have crazy wires everywhere. I've used the all-in-one, the four-in-one, I should say, ESCs, and I used the Revo F4 flight controller, and I have the Split Cam 2 on there as well, using a DSM-X satellite receiver for my Spectrum transmitter. And just look at this. This is beautiful. So I say we take a look at underneath the hood. Okay, opening up this guy is real easy to do. All you have to do is loosen the two screws on either the back right here, which is what I did, or you could remove the screws in the front right here, and then you can tilt it back the other way. Just my preference, I just loosened it up from the back here, just open it up here, make it easier to get to. Look how easy it is to get to these parts. If anybody has ever, put together drones or had to repair them, you always know you have to go under here and remove the standoffs. Let me show you. For example, right here, this standard X quad frame right here you have, this is the 215 by Realacc as well. You would have to loosen it up here, loosen these over here, and then you got to pull this off, and sometimes it's a mess. It's just, it can be very difficult. But not this guy. This guy's real easy to get to, makes repairs so much easier to deal with. I do want to point out the fact that this is not a kit that I bought or anything. None of these parts all came together. I had to buy everything separately, bought the frame separate, the motors, camera, everything. Everything on here I completely bought separate. And I want to show you all the parts that I used to make this build. Okay, so the first part I want to show you is the VTX. The VTX is really nice. It's really compact and small. It doesn't come with the connector for your antenna, which pretty much takes up a lot of room, and it really limits where you can mount this. This right here comes with a little tiny connector for your pigtail antenna if you use those. I'm really starting to like those a lot. They make the builds far better. So now when I'm looking for frames, I tend to look for the ones that where I can stick the pigtail in there and put my antenna on there. It's just a cleaner build for me. This one, it is power switchable between 25, 500, 200 milliwatts, and it's really good. The LEDs on the back here tell you what channel you're on, um, what your power is on here, and it accepts between 7 and 27 volts. So you can power this up directly from your ESCs or even from your battery connection if you want to. That isn't a problem. It has two BEC outputs of 5 volts. So you could run your power from, let's say, your ESCs or from your battery into this, and then you can power up anything that requires 5 volts, like maybe your flight controller or even some LEDs or whatever you want to do. It does also have the transmit and receive part, and that is important, especially if you're going to run a split cam. Now the split cam 2 is what I have here, and it's great because if you use the transmit and receive on the split cam, you can actually through Betaflight control whether or not you start the video, you stop the video, all kinds of stuff, and you can use that through your controller, which is good. But you have to hook up into the transmit and the receive parts of the VTX into your RunCam split. So many options you can have with this. You can mount it directly inside, and since this I have so much room in the stack, I just mount it right on top there, and it is no issue. It fits in there perfectly without any problems at all. Okay, so the next component I want to show you is the RunCam Split 2. The RunCam Split 2 is really good. It's a good option for if you don't have capability of mounting a GoPro, or if you don't even have a GoPro. Some people don't. Some people are actually, just getting these and eliminating the need for the GoPro. It saves a lot of weight, and the quality, it's not GoPro quality, but the quality is pretty darn good. Um, I have mine hooked up to the USB port. Um, Through watching Andy RC and some other videos, I've found that latency is reduced quite a bit and you don't get as much noise in the video if you're using the USB. I also heard that powering up your video, your camera on the solder pads creates a lot of noise as well. And the best option is to use the 5-volt input power, which is through the USB, or if you can power it up just using the 5-volt power source, maybe from the VTX here, like this one here, it's got a 5-volt BEC. I could power the camera up with that. But anything more than 5 volts, people tend to have problems with. Um, so it does come with a shielding here, which is good to reduce more noise. Nothing's perfect though, so you're going to have some kind of noise. So comes with a card slot. I have a 64 gigabyte card slot in here to record anything I want to really. The transmit and receive wires are right here. Let's see if you can see that. Get this in focus. Right here in the solder pads. They are connected to the flight board, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Um, this does come with a Wi-Fi module. I haven't really been able to check that out, see what that's all about. This also comes with a longer cable. If you have a build where you need more than what this is here, it does come with an extra cable that's a lot longer. So that's pretty good as well. So next we have, after the camera here, the split cam, we have the Revo F4 flight controller. You can either flash it with Betaflight or Race Flight. I have a friend of mine at work. He swears by Race Flight. He told me that you don't even have to adjust PIDs on Race Flight. It pretty much is self-adjusting, which is pretty interesting. I loaded it on the computer and I took a look at it, a quick glance, and right away it resembles Betaflight and Clean Flight, the same kind of user interface that we're all familiar with, and which is really good because if you already know Betaflight, it will be easier to work with. Libre Pilot, for instance, I have a board, CC3D, that runs off that, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, so just another thing. Um, okay, I like this board. This board is really cool. I love the fact you have all of these options for soldering all kinds of components in here. If I want to run LEDs on this guy until I turn blue, I could do that because I have all of these 5-volt and ground connections. This is for the beeper. I went ahead and just, I soldered on here some wires with some little connections. So all I got to do is plug and unplug the beeper whenever I want to, which is really good. And I do recommend whenever you have a quadcopter, you got to have a beeper. That's like, having a propeller. You got to have it. I've I don't know. I actually lost one of my quads one time. Never found it to this day in some weeds because I didn't have a beeper. A 2-cent beeper. I would have been able to find it without a problem, but that's how it goes. You live and you learn, right? So also on this board, I run a Spectrum DSMX receiver. So having a satellite receiver on here, right here, and this little connection here is just perfect for me. I mean, other boards, you got to find the 3.3 volt connection. You got to solder the power to that, and then you got to solder into the, the transmit, the receive, and it's just it's a real pain. So having that little plug in there, boom, done. You're all set. So also, if you take a look over here, you have these connections for your ESCs. Now for me, I went ahead and just took one of these plugs, soldered my connections in there, and plugged in the ESC to the board, and I will show you that right now. Here is the all-in-one ESC. It is a Racer Star. It is the 35 amp. It's got dual BEC. You can connect your flight board, and you can power up your flight board. And here I have, this is the 12 volt. Here's a 12 volt solder pad I was showing you earlier. It's right in here. You can use that. I use that to power up my VTX, which is perfect because my VTX is between 7 and 17, 27 volts. And also there's a 5 volt BEC on the connector that I had removed that I showed you for the flight controller. That will power up your flight board as well. That's easiest for me since all those wires are there anyways and all the solder pads are right together anyways. I'm just going to go ahead and do that, which is easy for me. Here you have, I soldered my wires in through the front to give it a clean build. I don't like going in through the side like this because it just leaves things open to get caught on something, and it just doesn't look as good. It's not as a clean build. I'd rather go in through the back and through the front and just solder it in that way. So much easier. It looks so much better, and it's just the way to go for me. I'm changing some of my other builds to follow that. Also, the battery cable. It's a good idea to go ahead and zip tie your battery cable to the arm of the quad. A lot of times it's happened to me, unplugging and plugging in batteries. I loosened up my solder connection and I was flying around. I did a flip and it dropped out of the sky because one of the solder pads came off. I had weakened it just by unplugging and plugging it. So now I always zip tie it to one of the arms. That way I just avoid that completely. These motors are great. They are Racer Star Edition, the green ones. They're 2306S size motors. They're at 2400 kV, which is pretty good. It's not bad at all. It gives good punch. The propellers, these are just some 5x4x3s, which are no big deal. I like the color on them. So the frame, the reason for vertical on the arms, I want to point out, is for wind resistance, right? You're flying like this, and with the flat arms, you're creating a lot of wind resistance. And so the object is to cut through the wind by turning the arms vertical like that. And these outside stabilizers are, they do basically what they say, is stabilize the arms in case of a crash. So if that happens, I mean, you're probably still going to break something, but it might not be as bad if you had removed the stabilizer. So I'm going to keep mine on since, I'm not a professional pilot. I crash a lot and it's just worth it for me. So all these parts, they are available online through either Banggood or Amazon. That's where I got them. I'm going to put a link to all of my parts down in the description there in case any of you want to do a similar build or the exact same build. I just want to help you guys out, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe. I appreciate any comments, suggestions, or anything like that. Thank you very much.